4.8, again, we're coming back to our big ideas in the French Revolution, as well as the pursuit of freedom. Big ideas helps us practice analysis. We have the facts, so what? What does that demonstrate to us? How can you as the student demonstrate your understanding and interpretation of the facts? And then the pursuit of freedom, different ways that you're seeing how are the French people looking for types of freedom, what are they doing about it? That will come in helpful for your final exam essay in December. So the guillotine, there are 2 videos on the guillotine if you're in Canvas over to the right. Just definitely want to make sure that you understand that the guillotine was seen as a good idea. It was seen as an improvement. It was following the Enlightenment, recognizing that all men are born with rights and how can we be more humane. This was seen as an improvement, but it will eventually be abused. And that is what happens a lot with this revolution, is there are some great ideas, but the ideas get perverted and abused later on, which leads us to a more radical era in the revolution. Things become a bit more extreme, and one group that leads that are called the Jacobins, or if you were French, Jacobins. The Jacobins really support the idea of the sans culottes. This literally translated means without shorts, without pants, because they support regular people who wear regular pants, like this guy here on the right. They don't like the fancy pants people like the nobles or the royalty or the church. The regular, average citizen. So the Jacobins are a political party that is gaining traction, and they say there should be new elections. The National Assembly, they were chosen to go to the Estates General, and they're all bourgeoisie. We want elections to choose a legislature that represents the real population. They also want to get rid of the monarchy. We don't like the monarchy at all. We want it to be purely a republic based on the representation of the citizens. And those citizens should be represented so every citizen can vote, or every man can vote. They want universal suffrage, meaning all men can vote. Not just property owners, but all men. And these Jacobins also want a new constitution. They say that the original constitution of 1791 still favors the king, still favors the bourgeoisie and the wealthy and the powerful. So these people want more rights for regular citizens. And they're going to be very extreme in this. At first they start out as ideas, but they will become more extreme actions. One person who becomes popular amongst the Jacobins is Maximilien Robespierre. He sees himself as one of these regular people. He was born very poor out in the provinces and has to work for everything he has. He works incredibly hard to get a scholarship to a good school. At that school, when he is a teenager, 1774, in the coronation of Louis and Marie Antoinette, there is a contest at Robespierre's school for who can write a speech, and the winner of the contest will give that speech on Coronation Day to the King and Queen. So Maximilien Robespierre works for months, works his little heart out, and he wins the contest. Coronation Day comes around, and the newly crowned King and Queen, they are exhausted. They've been up since early in the morning. They are wearing heavy robes. They are ready for a nap. And they actually begin to doze off to sleep as Maximilien is giving his speech. And from that point on, he holds this grudge. He is angry at the monarchy, angry that how dare they disrespect a French citizen. I am just as worthy as anyone else. So that will influence a lot of his actions. He goes back to school and continues to study the Enlightenment, and he really resonates with Rousseau. The idea that the only way government can work, that the only way government can be good, is if the people get involved. So this is why he wants representative government. If the citizens, the regular people, are part of the system, that is what will make the system good. He becomes well known because of his law practice, and he is selected to go to the Estates General. He is one of these people who goes to the Estates General, pulls away, becomes the National Assembly, and goes to the tennis court. So he is a part of the government. And because he is now a part of this nationally known government, people begin to know him, and his peers start to call him the incorruptible, that he is so pure in his motives, so driven in his desire to stick to Enlightenment philosophy. But what so often happens, and what will happen in this case, is that those who are pure of heart and passionate in those ideas, he will become corrupted in a way, and he will sort of veer off from a positive direction. The other guy I want you to know about is Georges Danton. This, if you are planning on doing the bonus movie for this unit, it is about this guy. Similar in many ways to Robespierre. Again, poor family, really humble origins. He didn't have the opportunity for a scholarship the way Robespierre does, but he was always well liked. People liked him. People liked his family. He also goes to school, becomes a lawyer eventually. He does not go to the Estates General, but he becomes known because he was at the Bastille. Now, he's very recognizable because of his massive noggin. So people start to recognize him on the street in Paris. Hey, that's the guy that was at the Bastille. He's a lawyer. He's successful, but he's one of us. He's just like the average citizen. From this popularity, Danton is able to become a part of the newly created Paris government called the Paris Commune. And then from there, he works his way up once again to national government. And in 1792, he is the Minister of Justice. So like Robespierre, starting from very humble origins, moving up to a position of national prominence. And I'm telling you about these two guys now because they're going to play a role later on. And they're sort of the heart of their beliefs somewhat in this Jacobin ideal of supporting the average citizen and getting the people involved. And this is a statue of Danton that I almost bought this year, but it was too big to fit in my suitcase. So we are now in 1792. Again, the royal family, they were asking for help, and other countries are wondering, should we help? And we see this all the time in American history, that we get involved with other countries because we see a potential human rights issue, or we want to prevent a much larger war. Even though Britain and France disliked each other, Britain was concerned by the treatment of nobles and the royal family. This cartoon from 1792 suggests everything is good in England. There's obedience to the laws, there's morality, there's national prosperity and happiness. And in France, it's rebellious and treasonous. There is cruelty and idleness and misery because of the way this revolution is going. So countries, especially Austria and Prussia, they consider going to war with France so that they can help the royal family. But the National Assembly decides they will go to war first. Sort of like, you didn't, I did. A preemptive strike against Austria and Prussia. Part of this is sort of to prove how good they are. Part of it is to steal food from the Prussian and Austrian armies because, have I mentioned, the French are still starving. There hasn't been really anything done to help the people. So this is a wonderful decision when your country is in debt, in the middle of a revolution, to go to war. Royal family is still under house arrest. They are under house arrest in Paris. People are still dissatisfied. Now, they have now just gone to war, but the people still feel like they don't have rights, that they don't have food. So this brings us to August 10th, 1792. There is a mob of citizens, these sort of sans-culottes types, the average people, who are in Paris and start mobbing the palace. And they attack the Tuileries Palace. They kill hundreds of the royal guards. And they break into the palace, and the royal family hears this, and they run for their lives. They are able, through secret passages, to get across the river to where the National Assembly meets. And they beg the National Assembly, please help us. The people are trying to kill us. And the National Assembly is a bit caught off guard, because the Jacobins were the prominent party in the National Assembly. So they take this opportunity, wow, sure, we'll help you. And they take care of him for a few days. But now they have an opportunity to get rid of the king and queen. So remember, here are the Jacobins, this extreme, radical party in the National Assembly. They want to get rid of the king. But there is an alternative. There are people in the National Assembly who say, yes, we want representation. Yes, we want a republic. But don't kill the king. He's not necessarily a bad guy. And if we kill the king and queen, they're related to the rest of Europe. And we'll have to go to war. So let the king just do his own thing. So the Girondists are much more moderate. But the Jacobins are in the majority. The people are still unhappy. The people continue to mob in the month of September. The National Assembly decides, you know what, to keep the royal family safe, is what they say. They put them in the Temple prison, which cannot be mistaken for house arrest. This is truly prison. The family has 2 rooms. It is, remember, Louis, Marie Antoinette, oldest daughter, Marie Therese, the son, Louis Joseph, and the sister of Louis, Elizabeth. So they are kept in prison, and the National Assembly then declares that the king is no longer king. They argue that when he left on that flight to Varennes, that he was abandoning the country. So the king is now just a citizen. He is citizen Louis, citizen Marie Antoinette. There is nothing special about him, which means that the Constitution, which established the three branches, and the constitutional monarchy, no longer exists. The Republic is all that matters now, the representation of the citizens. So unfortunately, that document they worked so hard to create, the Constitution of 1791, in just 1 year is already null and void. They have new elections with universal suffrage. So now all male citizens are allowed to vote. And the representatives that are elected in that vote are now known as the National Convention. So everyone was able to vote. We have a newly elected assembly, and they're going to decide what to do with these two citizens and their family who are in prison. They decide to charge citizen Louis with treason and crimes against the people of France. Louis actually acts as his own defense lawyer and says, I did what I thought was best and I apologize. The Jacobins, again, they are the majority party in this now national convention. And I think the numbers are very interesting. Louis is very clearly convicted of treason and crimes against the country, of a vote about 690 to about 30, I believe. Once the verdict is achieved, then they have to decide on a sentence. And the sentence vote is much different. It's about 380 to 310 for execution against execution. Only by a very small margin do the pro-execution group win. So on January 21st, 1793, King Louis XVI, now citizen Louis, loses his life and loses his head. The guillotine, this invention that he had added to, that he had made the major adjustment to make it so effective, he now gets to test its effectiveness. All right, guys, that is it for 4.8.